welcome to Words of Wisdom Wednesday, where every Wow Wednesday we try to meet you out and give you a little bit of the word. So, I want to start out today by just thanking everybody that has reached out and that has asked about Brett and I and how we're doing. That has really meant a lot to me as far as the podcast goes, well, and personally too. Um, I haven't recorded in the last couple of weeks because I've been super stressed. I'm right at the end of semester. I've been working on finals. Tomorrow is the last day. I have one assignment left. I have a final, my algebra final to take. I've procrastinated until the last minute to take it, but it's okay. It's okay. If anybody's wondering, I have a 78 right now, and I'm proud of that 78. Somebody spoke life into me on Sunday and said, "You don't need luck. You have worked hard. You're going to pass your test." So I'm saying that today. I'm proclaiming it. I'm going to pass my test. I'm going to pass this class. So, other than that, I've had a little bit of insomnia or a lot of insomnia. And before you say, "Oh, that's terrible," insomnia is pretty rampant in my field of work because my body is conditioned after 20 plus years to stay up until it can't stay up anymore. I don't know how long I can stay up. This last stint was 5 days, and it wasn't really work related. I got mixed up on my medicine, on my cycle, on taking my medicine, which is really important to help me wind down. But I've had some sleep. I could probably use some more, and we'll probably start sleeping more coming here soon. Um, but yeah, I want to say I'm just really appreciative of everybody that said, I haven't had a Words of Wisdom Wednesday, or, I haven't talked about TNT Ignite and how much it means to you guys. And it means a lot to me because, first of all, it holds me accountable that when I get into self-pity and, about, well, I don't want to record today and I'll record tomorrow. Well, I didn't record yesterday and I should have recorded yesterday, so I'm going to put it off for another day. When I should be in my word, I should be writing down things that have just touched my heart that I feel like God is wanting me to share, or things that are just in my season that I'm experiencing that maybe will touch somebody else too. So that brings us to what today's subject is. So today we're going to talk about reputations. We've talked about regrets in like an episode or two ago. I did this little mini series, if you haven't been following along, before Easter about expectations when we go into church and when our churches don't live up to our expectations, or people that are supposed to be Christians aren't as Christian-like as what we had a notation or maybe an image of what a Christian should be. So we're going to talk today about Joseph. If you're anything like me, you have heard a lot about Joseph, Joseph and his coat, Joseph and his brothers. Joseph had a pretty rough and tumble life, if we're just really honest about it. And you're probably wondering, well, what does that have to do with reputation? Well, if you're anything like me, I have many different social circles. I have my personal social circle, which is here with my husband and our foster kids and our families. And then I have a bigger circle with like close friends and relatives. Well, I also have like networking and coworkers and of course now podcasting and social media and that kind of thing. And so my social circles reach hundreds. I wouldn't say tens. They reach hundreds. You really don't realize the impact that you have on people. And I can look back on my life and count people that don't have the best image of me. That's just part of life. And so part of that regret that you have, maybe because of a portrayal or an image of a person has about your reputation. So let's go to Genesis 39, and we're going to read about Joseph and his reputation. So Joseph in Potiphar's house. Verse 1. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. The Lord was with Joseph, so he succeeded in everything that he did, and he served in the home of his Egyptian master. Potiphar noticed this and realized that the Lord was with Joseph, giving him success in everything that he did. This pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything that he owned. From the day that Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's house for Joseph's sake. All his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything that he owned. When Joseph, with Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Joseph was a very handsome and well-built young man, and Potiphar's wife soon began to look at him with lustful eyes. "Come sleep with me," she demanded. So before we get any farther, I think it's safe to say that Joseph, even though he was living a life of a slave, he was still free because God was with him. God blessed him, and he had a pretty happy life until Potiphar's wife came along and his reputation was beginning to be questioned. So, verse 8. But Joseph refused. "Look," he told her, "my master trusts me with everything in his entire household. No one here has more authority than I do. He has held back nothing from me except you because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing? It would be a great sin against God." So Joseph stands up and says, "You know what? This isn't the road that I want to go down." She kept putting pressure on Joseph day after day, but he refused to sleep with her, and he kept her out of her way as much as possible. One day, however, no one was around, and when he went to work. She came and grabbed him by his cloak, demanding, "Come and sleep with me." Joseph tore himself away, but he left his cloak in her hand as he ran from the house. When she saw this, and that she was holding the cloak and had fled, she called out to her servants. Soon all of the men came running. "Look," she said, "my husband has brought this Hebrew slave here to make fools out of us. He came into my room to rape me, but I screamed. When he heard me scream, he ran outside and got away. But when he left his cloak behind with me." She kept the cloak until her husband came home, and then she told him her story. "The Hebrew slave you have brought into our house tried to come in and fool around with me," she said. "But when I screamed, he ran outside, leaving his cloak with me." So this is where I kind of want to step in before we go any farther. In previous episodes, this really bothers me. Previous episodes, I've talked about a relationship that I have with a person at work, and how that things went south, and um, I've tried to apologize and I've tried to make amends, and it just hasn't been very well received. And I've had several people say, "It's not you. You've did everything that you can. You've did everything that there is to do biblically, and it's something that's broken within that other person. It's the other person that's rejecting you." And I have had to come to terms and realizing that I can't change the way certain people look at me. Um, and this goes back for as long as I've been alive. There's different people that have different opinions about me, and they're entitled to their opinion. I've been a facet of different people throughout life, because life is life, and sometimes you're in survival mode, and sometimes you're in worship modes, and sometimes you're just in autopilot mode. So the only thing that I can really worry about is today. So Joseph, who did nothing wrong in this situation, was blamed for something, and his reputation was tarnished. So we're going to keep on going with verse 19. Joseph was put into prison. Potiphar was furious when he heard his wife's story about how Joseph treated her. So he took Joseph and threw him into prison where the king's prisoners were held, and there he remained. But the Lord was with Joseph in the prison and showed him his faithful love. And the Lord made Joseph a favorite with the prison warden. Before long, the warden put Joseph in charge of all the other prisoners and over everything that happened in the prison. The warden had no more worries because Joseph took care of everything. The Lord was with him and caused everything he did to succeed. So even though his reputation in somebody else's eyes wasn't the best, God still blessed him. And God still had him succeed in his environment, wherever he was at. Um, and I heard a quote, I believe it was by Stephen Furtick here, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago, that really had an impact on me. And it was, God doesn't love us for the situation that we're in. He doesn't love us because of what we're doing at the time, regardless if it's um, being in jail, if it's being a stay-at-home mom that can sometimes feel like jail, if it's um, being involved with church or being at your job. What he loves about us is us. And so the reputation of other people, though it's hard, it's really hard. It's really hard to know that people don't um, have the best thoughts about you, but ultimately the only one that matters is God. So waking up every day, giving yourself a pep talk of, I'm going to be the best person that I can be in Christ today, you're in total control. Total control. All right. I hope maybe that somebody else needed to hear that. I know I did. It's a good story. See y'all later.